jobs.
We want you to step into this position, and we think it's a great opportunity for you. But really, I just got to do 2 jobs for less pay.
Hannah Gutierrez is facing charges of involuntary manslaughter and tampering with evidence. She has pled not guilty.
I would like to welcome my guests now here in studio, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernarda Villalona, and also joining us, trial attorney Kelly Hyman. Thank you, ladies. Power Hour for being with us today. Let me ask you, and I'd like to start with you, Bernarda, please. The defense opening, there were 2 things that they claimed. One was that it was a tragedy, and the second thing was, hey, it was Alec Baldwin and those producers, versus the state who says live rounds, what happened? Those were all negligent acts, and those were because of the defendant in this case. Where do you fall on this so far in terms of what you think of the state's case and the defense's theory?
So you know that the defense was going to come out and start pointing the finger at everyone else but the person that is responsible and only had one job to do, and that's to ensure the gun safety. That was her job. That is her title. So even if she had other duties, her main title and main responsibility as an armorer is to make sure the safety of the guns that are on this set. So I'm with the prosecution on this one. While she'll point the blame at everyone else, in the end, you are the expert here. You were the one that was hired to make sure safety at this set, having to deal with the gun. That's where I fall right there. I can understand the defense in terms of pointing a finger, and that's exactly why there's only one defendant at that table, because they couldn't try Alec Baldwin and her, because they'll turn into double prosecutors inside of that courtroom, pointing the finger at each other.
I completely agree with you on that. And there's no such thing as a movie set exception. So it's not as if, well, it's not a crime, it was an accident because it happened on a movie set. That's not a thing under the law. All right, before Kelly, you comment, I want to watch together something I want to ask you about, and that is a little bit of the body cam video with Hannah Gutierrez when she was speaking to the police. Let's listen.
How do I know this is the gun?
That's the gun.
Okay.
Oh my God. I'm so, are they okay?
Hey, Santa Fe, we need more units out here.
I've never been inside a gun.
Okay, what I'm gonna have you do is sit in here. Okay?
Arrested?
You're not arrested. The door's gonna stay open. Since you're the armor, they're gonna wanna talk to you more than anybody, okay?
Oh my God.
Just relax. Okay? I'm just trying to, there's a whole lot of people here, so I'm trying to secure everybody.
You want me to come with you?
You can stay right here with us.
Stay right here with you. I don't want to go anywhere.
You can leave the door open. You don't have to do anything, okay?
You know, Kelly, and as that body cam video continues, I think one could easily argue that Hannah Gutierrez seemed to be very out of it. These words are going to be used against her. Do you think this is a case where she may have to take the stand to defend herself?
Taking the stand could potentially be key for her to tell her side of the story. But as you know, Judge, ultimately it's going to be her decision. Her attorney can advise her what he believes, whether she should take the stand or not. But ultimately it's going to be her opportunity to do it or not. But I think that's going to be key, because potentially the jurors want to hear from her, hear her side of the story. Why did this happen? Why were these rounds there? And what was there a way to prevent this? And was she negligent? How did she act? And what she did is definitely going to be key.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I've already pointed out she looks very different in that courtroom. Comment on that, if you would, Bernarda, that she is so different in the courtroom versus when you see her on those videos. They've done a phenomenal job, I think, this defense, making her look very sympathetic.
Yeah, so she does look sympathetic in terms of the courtroom. You know, she's nice and cleaned up. She's quiet. She has makeup. Also, actually looks a little bit younger inside of the courtroom than from the date of the shooting itself.
Young and innocent.
Yes. But look, regardless whether she testifies or not, the jury has already heard from her because of the body-worn camera. And remember the 2 interviews that she gave. So either way, the prosecution is going to harp on those interviews. In terms of her testifying, I don't think there's a way that she can in a credible manner, clean up those 2 statements that she already gave.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we'll see what she decides to do. We know it's her choice, defendant's choice, if they testify or not, ultimately. But let's circle back to something you mentioned, and that was Baldwin and him not being in that courtroom, being tried at the same time that she's being tried. And I want to listen to a little bit of the defense opening that squarely puts the blame on Alec Baldwin. Let's watch together.
The actor, Alec Baldwin, pointed a gun on that set, and he either had his finger on the trigger and the hammer cocked, or he pulled the trigger as he was pointing that at Miss Hutchins and Mr. Souza, who was right behind her. And make no mistake, this is not a prop gun, this is a real gun. Mr. Baldwin pointed it right at him, either had his finger on the trigger and depressed, or pulled it, causing that gun to fire and hit Miss Hutchins.
Kelly, is it possible for 2 different juries to find each of these individuals guilty for reckless acts? Because it seems kind of weird. You have one person with the gun, she's shot, she's killed, but yet 2 people responsible criminally. Is that a possibility?
Yes, that is possible, because ultimately the juror is going to make a determination whether to find them innocent or guilty based on the facts and evidence. But her counsel in this case is doing his job. He is representing his clients, and he's saying the fact that, no, it's not her fault, that it's someone else. It'd be interesting to see in Baldwin's trial whether he will throw the blame at her and say, but for her doing what she did, he would have been in the situation that we put himself in. So we're going to have to see how that plays out ultimately.
And I think Bernarda, absolutely, he's going to say it was her, it was them, it was everybody else. But I also think in his case, he's very charismatic, and he has spoken out to the media a lot during this time period. Do you think? Go ahead.
Which I wish he didn't. I wish he didn't. And I'm sure his attorneys
said
wish he
don't.
had not.
And you know they said don't say anything. It'll be used against you.
And remember that one of the main statements that they're going after him on is the one where he's like, I did not have my finger on the trigger. I did not have my finger on the trigger. And where did that statement take place? When he was talking in the media, when he was giving an interview. So that's why you don't talk to the media. But you know Alec Baldwin for sure is going to place the blame on Hannah Gutierrez. Because in the end, she's the expert. I'm relying on what you tell me. This is a cold gun. And because it's a cold gun, that's why I have the gun in my hand and I'm using it the way I'm using it. In the end, you're the expert. I'm not a gun person. But the fine line that you run is that this is your show. Yeah. This is your production.
He was
so
a
you
producer.
cut so many corners. Are they going to hold that against you because you wanted to make as much money as you could off of this movie? But the defense attorney is going to have to distinguish that.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, Kelly, I think he is for sure going to want to testify. As outspoken as he's been, I can't imagine that he will choose not to get up there to tell his story. But also, he's persuasive, charismatic. He's an actor to try to get that jury to believe him because of the personality he can deliver.
I think you're 100% right. Definitely see him testifying and telling his story. It'll be interesting when that case goes to trial, what the prosecutor does is poke holes at what he said and use those other statements as well. But I definitely see him getting in front of the jury, telling his story. That's definitely going to be key for him. But as we noted before, ultimately that's going to be his decision. And I'm sure that his counsel will advise him accordingly. But I definitely see him testifying.
I do too, and I'm sure his attorneys are watching every minute of this trial because that's going to give them really a leg up when they are preparing to defend him in his trial later this year. All right, love having the ladies here with me, but we do need to take a break. We plan to go back into that courtroom just as soon as they get started. They should be back from lunch and resuming. Stay with us and we'll get you inside. A famous actor in a movie set accident that ended in tragedy.
I turn up because the gun goes off.
Now the film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez, faces a jury.
The Baldwin movie shooting trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, diving deeper into new details in the Baldwin movie shooting trial. Court TV teams are live from New Mexico with takeaways from today's testimony.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.
Rust was only the second film that the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, had ever worked on as an armor. In October 21st, 2021, that would all quickly come to an end. As the person in charge of all the firearms on set, Gutierrez was responsible for checking the guns for safety before handing them over to be used during filming. But as actor Alec Baldwin drew his prop gun, a live round fired and fatally struck cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Now the question remains, how did a live bullet get onto the set, and who should be held criminally responsible? The jury should be back soon. We understand they're returning from lunch break, and while we wait, the jury did hear from a crime scene investigator this morning. They were questioned on her ability to identify a dummy from a live round. Let's take a listen.
What is the scope of your training you've had on determining different types of ammunition?
I mean, are you specifically referring to
Calibers, 4440, 38, 45, you've been trained on recognizing the differences?
that? I have, yes.
Okay. And how about recognizing the differences between dummy rounds, blanks, and live rounds?
I have not been to that type of training, no.
Okay. So your testimony earlier when you were talking about the dummy rounds and the various measurements and that, you have not been trained in that area?
No.
Okay. Now, part of your training in terms of verifying that a round is either a dummy or a live round is you need to send that to the FBI lab for confirmation. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Because some of the dummy rounds appear like live rounds. They look like live rounds, correct?
Yes.
In fact, the round that came out of the box we saw earlier that did not shake, you sent that off to the FBI lab because you wanted to confirm what that was, correct?
Yes.
And part of the thing the FBI does is they take apart the round and they determine if it has powder in it. Is that right?
Yes.
And when they do that, that tells them basically if it's a live round or a dummy. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So would you also agree in your training that you've never been taught that you can eyeball a dummy and determine if it's a dummy or a live, or eyeball a round and determine if it's a dummy or live?
No, I've not been trained in that area.
Okay. And you would also agree with me that you can't look at a picture of a round and determine necessarily if it's a dummy or a live?
I would disagree with that.
And why would you disagree?
The rounds that have holes drilled into the side of them or the primers removed appear to visibly be dummy rounds.
And those do. Now, how about the rounds that don't shake, don't have a hole in them, and you're looking at that? You can't tell just by looking at it that's live or dummy, correct?
Correct.
And that's why you sent that one off to the lab again, right?
Yes.
When you were at PDQ doing the search, is there a specific reason that you were only looking for .45 caliber rounds?
My understanding was that was the restriction of the search warrant.
Based on your understanding of the investigation, why are .45 caliber rounds significant and others not significant?
Because all of the live rounds that were located on set were .45 rounds.
The jury is coming into the courtroom. We don't yet have audio, so let me bring back in Kelly Hyman, Bernarda Villalona. I get the argument that it's hard to tell live from dummy rounds, but Bernarda, who cares? There shouldn't even be live ammunition on a movie set.
Exactly. There shouldn't be live ammunition at the movie set. The question would be, I think the jury, it's going to be difficult for them to reach a decision without getting that answer as to how the live rounds got on the set. So I think it's more of that the prosecution is going to try to have to nail that down and bring it closer and closer that it was Jaime Gutierrez who bought that box of live rounds and dummies.
I agree. Sorry to interrupt. I understand court is back in session. Let's go back inside.
Entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 96. Can you go ahead and just read that and remind us if this is a message that was sent by the phone or received by the phone?
Sure. So this was a message that was received by Ms. Gutierrez-Reed's phone from the Dadcula contact that says, get someone to show her a single action gun and how it works. They don't go off by themselves. And then beneath that is an incoming message from Mr. Bull's phone to Ms. Gutierrez-Reed's phone that says, yes, I sent her this manual I got today also.
What's the problem?
Do you want me to just read them?
Just read them. Let's just, we gotta get this done. Thank you, sir. There's a State's Exhibit 96 that I've handed you. Can you just go ahead and read it, explain to the jurors what you're reading, given that they've already saw it?
Yes, so this is Exhibit 96. The first page I've just read. The second page.
And Mr. Hawks, what's the date of these conversations?
Sorry, this is December 1st, 2021. The second page starts with a message from Mr. Bowles to Ms. Reed that says, I think I sent this with an attachment. Beneath that is an outgoing message from Ms. Reed that says, yeah, honestly, that gun won't go off unless he fully cocked it. And then the final message on that page is a message from the Dadcula contact that said, if someone could just show her, she could see a transfer makes no difference. The final page starts with an outgoing message from Ms. Reed that says, yeah, we got some that just aren't long barreled. They're the same thing. And then finally, a message from the Dadcula contact that says exactly.
May I approach? I'm going to hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 95. And would you go ahead and do the same thing with 95?
Certainly. So 95 is from November 8th of 2021. And the first message is an outgoing message from Ms. Reed that says, hey, I need you to check out my boxes and send me some pictures of our boxes of dummies. The second page starts with an incoming text from the Dadcula contact that says will do. And then beneath that is another incoming text message with a photograph.
And at my request, did you separate that photograph? Did you isolate that photograph for me?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been previously entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 69, and we're going to do this the quick and old-fashioned way. Can you see that?
Yes.
Sorry for the dirty screen. What is that?
That is the image that was sent via text message, via iMessage, to Ms. Reed's phone from the Dadcula contact.
Thank you, sir. May I approach? Mr. Hawks, in addition to doing some work on Ms. Gutierrez's cell phone extraction, did you also do some work on cell phone extractions from some other folks involved in this case?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember their names?
There was a woman named Sarah. I don't remember her last name.
Okay.
And a gentleman whose name I don't remember. But
Okay.
I'm sure I would if you refresh my memory.
Well, I'm going to leave that to defense counsel, and I will pass the witness.
Thank you. Mr. Bullion.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You mentioned you did some other extractions. Does the word Dave Halls ring a bell?
Yes.
All right, is that the other phone that you looked at?
Correct.
All right. And Judge, if I can publish just to his screen, please.
Can I just be standing there
Sure.
so I can see what's on his screen? Is that okay?
You can stand there, stand here, wherever you would like. It'll be quicker to do it this way because then I can publish it if the judge admits it. Okay.
Here, why don't I just stand here
Yeah.
and I'll look over your shoulder? That's perfect. Sorry.
Yeah, that works.
While they're sorting out their technology before we head to break, 2 major hearings are set for Monday in the Karen Reed case. This is expected to be the last time Reed is in court before she stands trial in March for the murder of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. This all comes as major developments were released earlier this week alleging the existence of a, quote, romantic entanglement. Also, there was DNA evidence allegedly disputing some of the defense's claims. We will bring you those hearings live, with the first one starting Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on Court TV. Welcome back to Court TV Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are in day 2 of the trial for armorer Hannah Gutierrez in New Mexico. The 26-year-old is charged in the fatal on-set shooting during the making of the Western film Rust, starring Alec Baldwin. He was rehearsing for a scene when his gun went off, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins and wounding director Joel Souza. The case centers on how a live round of ammunition actually found its way onto the film set and into the gun held by Baldwin. On the stand now is Jason Hawks. He performed cell phone extractions from several people in the case. He's now facing cross-examination by the defense.
All right, what are you looking at here, sir?
I'm looking at the first page of a PDF of a Celebrite report that was done by the New Mexico RCFL.
All right.
Of the phone that you just asked me about.
All right, and can you scroll down to the second page?
Yes.
All right. So what is this device information? What does this tell you?
So this is a summary of the data that is in this PDF report. It involves chats, native messages, which are, in this case, iMessages, WhatsApp, emails, timeline, and then data files, which include images and videos.
Okay. Is there information about deleted information on this device?
There is.
Can you tell us about that, please?
So the report indicates that there's 1 deleted iMessage and 1 deleted WhatsApp. In addition to that, there are 5 deleted emails, and there are some deleted images, but without knowing what the images are, I don't know if they're things that he actually deleted or if they were cached images that got purged.
And how many images are notated on the report as being deleted?
I'm sorry, I didn't bring my
Yeah,
glasses.
help yourself.
Sorry. So there's 152,237 images total, and there's 1,438 that are deleted.
You can just hold on to that.
And then 3,214 videos with 7 deleted.
Okay. And when you're looking at a device and you see that something's been deleted, what does that actually mean? What is that telling you?
It means that it was deleted and recovered. So if I delete something from my cell phone and it's overwritten, or that memory is actually purged, then it's not recovered and there's just no evidence of it. So this shows that there were items that were deleted and recovered by the program.
All right, and you have no way of knowing if additional things were deleted because it just wouldn't be extracted. You wouldn't have the information to look at.
Correct.
All right, and in your experience, do you know that sometimes happens?
I know that it can happen. I mean, if it's not there, I don't know that it was there to begin with and was deleted, but it certainly can happen.
Okay. Actually, I'll just leave this here with you. Sir, if you can go to the emails page on that document.
Can you make sure he's got the right one?
Yeah,
I do.
All right. There's about 20 emails in Mr. Hall's extraction here. How do you know that these are actually his emails?
So there's incoming emails. The top one is an incoming email. Just to avoid what we had earlier, it's to a Gmail address.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that account was installed on the phone, and this is an email that was received by his phone, signed into an email address associated with him.
Okay, so that physical phone has access to that email address?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, I would move to conditionally admit Defendant's Exhibit O.
Counsel approach.
All right, while they're at a sidebar, let's bring back in Kelly Hyman and Bernardo Villalona. Here's the thing, ladies. Let me start with you first, Kelly, if you're still with us, and that is the testimony that there was a text that said, we're going to send, or the defendant said, send us pics of our boxes of dummies. She's not doing anything wrong, I don't think, in these text messages. She's not under arrest at the time, and she's kind of doing her own investigation, I think.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, why are they asking these questions? Her attorney is cross-examining him very well and basically saying there might be some more information out there, which I find very interesting because maybe we're not seeing the full puzzle completely. We're just hearing part of the story. So it'll be interesting to see later on in the case if he brings that up and we get something else, that other communications that wasn't recovered.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and I'll be able to speak to you after the break, Bernardo, but one of the things I've noted is the right strategy of the state being employed in the order of witnesses. So we're going to circle back to that. We need to take a quick break. When we come back, of course, more discussion and getting you back inside that courtroom. Stay tuned. Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan.
In every story, in every trial, every case, there's at least two sides to it.
To dive into the latest.
Oh my God.
And breaking true crime stories.
This was a very targeted, very personal attack.
Inside.
My whole life depends on it.
And outside of the courtroom.
She's a psychopath.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Premieres March 2nd. Only on Court TV.
The state of New Mexico says damning evidence could prove that the Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez is guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Right now, we are hearing from Jason Hawks, a cell phone expert. He is facing cross-examination by the defense. Let's go back in for more.
Yes.
And sir, you had mentioned emails being deleted. Can you say with certainty that emails were deleted from Mr. Hall's phone?
We'll celebrate recovered deleted information. So yeah, so it was recovered from it's a recovered deleted email.
Okay. And the email that, actually was over that, apologies. If I could approach again. All right. Sir, I'm handing you what I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit P. Can you look at the first 2 pages of that document, please?
Yes.
All right. What is that?
This is an iPhone 11.
Is it Sarah Zachary's phone?
I'm looking for the device name.
Council approach.
And I may just be able to stipulate.
Hold on, I need you to.
Yeah, another sidebar. Let me ask you, Bernarda, because we left off with this. What do you think of the state strategy? To me, it appears as if they're going in chronological order.
So sometimes it makes sense, other times it doesn't, because you have to think, first off, when it comes to putting on witnesses for the prosecution, sometimes you don't have any control about the scheduling of the witnesses, so you put witnesses out of order.
True.
But in terms of telling a story, that's how they're going chronologically, but you don't need that in this case because you already have the body-worn camera and the jury has heard an extensive opening statement. So let's just end, today is Friday, end on a good note, on a strong note. So give them a piece of evidence that actually inculpates Hannah Gutierrez Reed so you can leave the jury thinking about something over the 2-day weekend.
And what great advice for trial strategy, which is half the battle in these cases. All right, let's go back in. The sidebar is over.
The state will stipulate that what Mr. Hawks is looking at is a cell phone extraction of the witness, Sarah Zachary.
Judge, may I retrieve my...
Yes.
Thanks. All right, sir, with both Mr. Hall's phone and Sarah Zachary's phone, are the dates and timestamps listed in the extraction for text messages and emails, are those accurate?
Yes.
And how do you know that?
So everything in our phones in these SQLite databases is stored in UTC by default. What Cellbrite does is it converts it to whatever time zone we want it converted to. In this case, Mountain Time.
Okay, so the foundational testimony you gave at length regarding my client's phone would apply with equal force to both Mr. Hall's phone and Ms. Zachary's phone?
Yes, these are things that are written at the time.
Okay. Did you have any other role in this case? Did you do any other work in this case?
No, my primary role was to help the prosecutor sort of sift through various pictures and that sort of thing to make sure only images that were native to the phone came in, not cached images or things that were beyond her control.
You mentioned on direct exam that there are some things that you don't get in a extraction. Would one of those things be something stored on a cloud, like an iCloud?
It depends. Are you referring to a document or an image?
Why don't you describe both?
So if we have things on our iCloud, typically it can be stored also locally on the phone and on the iCloud, or in the case of photographs, your phone may keep a little thumbnail that is a link to your iCloud account. So in that case, the original photo would not be on the handset. It would be on the cloud, but that thumbnail is essentially a gateway to the original image.
Okay. If something is just on the cloud and you don't have a gateway, as you described, is there a way to actually go get that information?
You could get it with a search warrant.
Okay. Did you discuss doing any kind of search warrant to retrieve images or texts or video from Sarah Zachary that she may have in the cloud?
No.
No? Do you recall having a email discussion on October 12th, 2023 with Ms. Morrissey about this subject?
I don't. I know that Ms. Morrissey, if you're telling me I had one with her, then perhaps I did. I sent her some various subpoena language. I don't remember this iCloud being part of it, but if you're telling me it was there, then I did.
Would looking at the email refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Back to approach?
Yes.
Can I see it?
Sure.
Some discussion about a subpoena or a search warrant. Right, what? This doesn't have anything to do with a search warrant or subpoena.
Okay, this is for refreshing recollection, so you've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
See if you can refresh it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let me know when you finish reading it, please.
Actually, you want me to read all of it, correct?
Just the top one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If it's refresh your recollection, let me know, and if not, let me know.
Yeah, so this is what I was referring to as far as,
So you're going to give that back to him, and he's going to ask
Oh,
if
yeah.
this refreshes your memory to the question he asked you.
Yeah, did that refresh your memory, sir?
what I think I meant by that, and I'm not really sure, so I can't say with 100% certainty if I was referring to, I'm sorry, you have a question beyond that, or it refreshes my recollection of the conversation, yes.
Okay. So on Ms. Zachary's phone, you were requested to get text, videos, and photos from September 15th, 2021 to November 21st, 2021. And you indicated that there were some photos that were not on her phone but might be on her iCloud account. Did you have further discussion about how you might go obtain those photos?
No, I think what we're referring to the same thing. I believe my recollection is that I'm referring to the thumbnails. So if I were to download a thumbnail from a phone and you were to put it onto a television screen, it just gets blurry as opposed to the actual full-size image. That's my recollection of the full-size image may be on the iCloud.
Okay. And you said in here that there are no entries on the phone or image metadata, right?
Correct.
All right. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Redirect.
Just real quick, Mr. Hawks. Is it possible for a person's phone to delete things without the operator of the phone intending for that to happen?
What do you mean specifically?
And I thought there was a discussion earlier when we were off the record that sometimes the phone automatically deletes certain things. That's what I'm referring to.
So you're referring to cached images?
Right.
So when we go to a website or social media, our phone will capture a series of images, and those images go into what's called a cache folder. And after a certain amount of time, that cache folder automatically will delete. But that's not from the person's camera roll.
And it wouldn't be from their email either?
Email contents?
Oh, I'm speaking about what Mr. Bullion was referencing with regard to Mr. Halls's deleted data.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
It wouldn't, no.
Okay, I just wanted to square that up. Thank you. I don't have anything further. Appreciate you.
Your excuse.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
And just for the record, I'm going to reserve, just in case we need to bring him back.
You're reserved. Don't talk to any witnesses.
Yes, ma'am.
The state calls Catherine Rowe Walters.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, have a seat, talk into the microphone. Thank you.
Go ahead and state your full name.
Full name, Catherine Elizabeth Walters.
Thank you. And do you go by Roe?
Yes, ma'am.
Alrighty. Ms. Walters, were you a member of the crew of the movie Rust?
Yes, ma'am.
And what role did you have?
I was the unit production manager.
What does a unit production manager do?
A unit production manager is the person on set who is making sure the day-to-day operations go smoothly.
Thank you, of course, to Kelly Hyman for joining us. Bernarda Villalona is sticking around. But before we go, I want to share today's thoughts from the bench. What is up with all the sidebars? They're really exhausting to watch, and I'm not even on the jury. Therein lies the problem with too many bench conferences. You risk irritating the jurors and even the judge. Now, theoretically, these are prevented by pretrial motions and hearings before the judge in order for the judge to make evidentiary rulings that act as a roadmap for what is admissible during trial. My hope is that there will be fewer sidebars as this trial proceeds. Joining me next, Michael Ayala for more testimony in the Baldwin movie shooting trial. Stay with us, Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcox.
And I'm Michael Ayala. We're both here today giving you your front row seat to justice. We are in New Mexico this afternoon for the high-profile case involving actor Alec Baldwin.
He was the lead actor and producer on the Western movie Rust before a fatal shooting stopped production in its tracks.
According to prosecutors, the armorer on the set, then 24-year-old Hannah Gutierrez, failed to check the gun used by Baldwin during a rehearsal.
As Baldwin was going through the scene, the gun went off, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins and injuring the director. Now both Baldwin and Gutierrez are facing involuntary manslaughter charges.
All right, what we want to do now, folks, is get you back into court where the state's next witness has just taken the stand. It's a production manager from the movie set of Rust.
Are you familiar with Ms. Gutierrez?
I am.
Your role on set, if a crew member needs something, would you maybe be the person they would go to?
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to ask you, did Ms. Gutierrez ever specifically request from you additional training time with Mr. Baldwin?
Not to me.
Did Ms. Gutierrez request generally additional training days as an armorer from you?
No, not from me.
We understand that there was a prop truck on the movie set, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
During the filming of the movie, before the incident that occurred on October 21st, when filming wasn't going on, so in the evenings or on the weekends, how was that prop truck secured?
There's a side door on that truck, and the back door, the back roll-up door, are secured by padlocks.
And so that happened even prior to October 21st?
Yes, ma'am.
And who would lock the truck in the evening or for the weekend?
Either it would be the department heads or it would be the Teamsters who were maintaining the trucks.
And so were they combination locks or key locks?
I believe they were key locks, but I don't remember.
Can you tell us who had access, who had the keys, who could go get in the prop truck?
It would be anyone. It would be anyone who had the keys to do it. The department heads were the ones that usually had keys or combinations.
Who were the department heads? Can you just give us their names?
Sure. So for props, it was Sarah Zachary. For armory, and I believe that Sarah and Hannah shared keys. The other department heads would have been Sergey and a couple of others that I honestly don't recall, but they would have had keys to their trucks.
And they have keys to the locks that lock the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you have a key to the locks?
No.
Well, Did Ms. Gutierrez reach out to you a couple days after Ms. Hutchins' death and ask to meet you at the prop truck?
Yes.
And why did she want to meet you at the prop truck?
She was getting ready to head back home and wanted to grab some personal effects off the truck.
And were you able to provide her access to the truck?
Yes.
How were you able to do that if you didn't have the keys?
So after the incident occurred, we had the Teamsters pull all of the locks off the trucks and had a different set of keys so that the only people who would have access were myself and the Teamster captain were the only two people who had those access.
And why would the Teamster have access to the truck?
Because they were the ones, if they needed to move it for any reason, do any maintenance, any of those things.
Okay. You have actual Teamsters that are working on the movie set that are maintaining the trucks?
Yes, ma'am.
And driving the trucks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So when Ms. Gutierrez, do you recall the date that Ms. Gutierrez asked you to meet at the prop truck?
I do not.
Do you agree that it was just a couple days after the incident?
I do.
Okay. And do you know everything that Ms. Gutierrez took out of the prop truck?
I do not.
Did you see any of the items that she took out of the prop truck?
I saw a few things, but I don't remember exactly everything.
Can you just describe to us the few things that you did see her take out of the prop truck?
I remember a couple of gun belts, and I think I remember a couple of cardboard boxes, but nothing other than that.
Okay. And Ms. Gutierrez took these items from the prop truck prior to the police executing a search warrant on that truck. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. I will pass the witness. Thank you.
Cross-examine.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, in addition to Ms. Gutierrez-Reed, you allowed other people to get their personal effects as well, didn't you?
From the set?
Yes.
Yes.
So after the incident, the law enforcement cleared the scene, and everybody thought it was clear, correct?
Correct.
And so you allowed multiple people to get their personal effects, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't just Ms. Gutierrez-Reed?
Correct.
Okay. Now, with regard to that said, I want to ask you, were you aware of the camera crew walking off?
Yes.
And they were disgruntled?
Yes.
When did they walk off that set?
I received resignation emails the night before.
Okay. So this was the night before the incident, the night before the shooting. And these camera crew, and how many of them walked off?
My memory says 6, which was the full team.
So the full team, the full camera crew walked off set. So for the set next day, you have to get a new camera crew.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and were you in charge of that?
It was a joint effort between myself, my line producer, Gabrielle Pickle, and our producers as well.
Are you and Miss Pickle, do you talk, or on the set, did you talk quite a bit? Did you talk daily?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I don't want to get into hearsay comments, what somebody else said, but were you aware that Miss Gutierrez-Reed had requested additional training of Mr. Baldwin?
For Mr. Baldwin, no.
Okay, you never had that discussion with her?
No.
But do you know whether Miss Pickle did?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay, so let's go back. You and a couple more people are trying to get the camera crew, is that right? And did you get them for the next day?
We did.
Okay, you had to scramble. I mean, that night, make calls that night?
Yeah, I was making calls that night and very early the next morning.
The camera crew that walked off because they were disgruntled, did they come to the set that next morning?
They did.
Do you know what they were doing the next morning? Did you watch them or did you see them?
Yeah, I was with them for part of the morning. They were retrieving their own personal effects off of the camera truck.
Okay. Did you see any of them walk around to other parts of set or were they just getting their effects?
From what I remember, they were just around the truck.
Okay. The prop truck, during the day, that was not secured during the days of set. Is that correct?
As far as I know, it was not secured, no.
Okay. So during the day, the filming goes on, and what are the hours of that generally?
Generally, we would start anywhere between 6 and 7 a.m. and go till 7 or 8 p.m.
Okay, so for approximately that 12 or 13-hour period, whatever it would be, that prop truck was open.
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. Theoretically, everybody on set could have had access to that prop truck.
Theoretically.
Okay. Now, you said that it was you and the Teamsters that would secure that truck after hours. Is that right?
It would be the department heads and the Teamsters.
Department heads and Teamsters.
Yeah.
Who was the person, the Teamster in particular, that would do that?
I do not remember his name.
Okay. After the shooting, do you remember who that Teamster, who that captain, I think you said was?
I would honestly have to go back through my notes. I cannot remember his name right now.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
And do you have your notes, or?
I do not.
That's okay. Okay, so you don't remember his name?
I do not.
Okay. Did you check every night before you left to make sure that prop truck was locked?
No.
Okay. Now, with regard to Miss Gutierrez-Reed, my understanding is that you never heard any complaints about her.
I did not.
Okay. And that was the entire time of the arrest set?
Correct.
Okay. Let me ask you also, after the incident, after the shooting, I understand you went into the church approximately 2 days after?
That sounds correct, yes.
Okay, and you were going to remove media?
Yes.
Is that right? Were
Yes.
you trying to assist them to remove the media from the camera to see if anything had been filmed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that was with regard to filming of the actual shooting, correct?
Yes, sir.
And were you able to remove that?
I was.
Were you able to determine whether there was any filming?
Of the incident?
Yes.
There was no filming of the incident that was recorded.
Okay. Do you know whether anybody may have had access to that camera after the shooting and before you removed the media?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. When you said there was no filming, are you familiar enough with that camera system to know whether, if they're looking through the monitor, that it has to be rolling?
They can look through the monitor whether it's rolling or not.
Okay. So your knowledge of that camera is they can look through it without it rolling?
Correct.
Okay. Now, with regard to that prop truck search, you were present for that search, correct?
I was.
And you also present for that search was Seth Kenny.
Yes, he was there.
Okay. And do you remember why Seth Kenny there? Did he go to provide the code?
No, I think he was there because a lot of the firearms that were there were his. So he was there to be with the sheriff's office.
He was there with the sheriff's office when they arrived?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you know whether he was let into the prop truck? Do you recall that?
I do not recall.
Okay. Were you in the truck or outside when the search happened?
Outside.
Did you look inside the back of that truck?
I did.
Did you see that prop cart in the truck?
I do not recall.
Okay. Now, if it was in the pictures, would you have any idea why the prop cart was in the prop truck?
I am confused by your question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me ask you this way. If the prop cart was in the prop truck, do you know who must have moved that into the prop truck?
I can make an assumption, but I do not know for sure who would have moved it.
No, don't guess.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you don't know.
No.
Okay. All right. You indicated you got keys to the locks for the prop truck after the incident.
Yes, sir.
And you said the Captain Teamster had one too.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have the combo to that gun safe?
No.
Okay. Now, you talked a little bit about Baldwin and its safety training. Did you ever observe that training that was done with Baldwin?
I saw it from a distance, but I was not close enough to hear anything.
Okay. Did you observe that Baldwin was not really paying attention?
His back was to me, and they were up a hill. I do not know.
So you don't know that? Okay.
No, sir.
On the set, after it was over for the day, you're aware that Miss Gutierrez-Reed, Miss Zachary, everybody had to basically clear out. They had to leave. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So at the end of the day, it's fair to say they weren't accorded time to clean the prop truck? Because at the end of the day, they needed to go.
Correct.
And during the day, Ms. Zachary, because this set's pretty busy.
Yeah.
You agree with that? During the day, they're doing their prop jobs and their armor job duties, those kind of things, correct?
Correct.
So there's no time really to go back during the day, take a break, and go back and clean everything. And there's not at night either, is there?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Honor. I don't have any.
Redirect.
Ms. Walters, I want to be clear. Between October 21st and October 27th, did anyone other than Ms. Gutierrez request to get items out of the prop truck?
Not to me. Not to my knowledge.
It was only Ms. Gutierrez that you gave access to the prop truck between the 21st and the 27th?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And on the movie set, did you guys hire security guards?
There was 24-hour security at the gate, but they did not walk around on set.
Okay, but if someone were to try to drive in, they would encounter that security guard, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this location convenient to get to?
Not really.
Okay. I think you indicated on cross-examination that no one complained to you about Ms. Gutierrez. Do you recall saying that?
I do recall.
Isn't it true that one of the reasons that the camera crew indicated they were leaving was because of the accidental discharges from firearms on set?
Your Honor, I'm going to object on hearsay. That would be the basis for that.
Well, I'm basically impeaching her because she indicated.
Council approach, just you two.
Another one of those sidebars coming up next. The production manager testifies there were other accidental discharges on set. Stay tuned, that's right after the break.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, diving deeper into new details in the Baldwin movie shooting trial.
I'm the armor, or at least I was.
Court TV teams are live from New Mexico with takeaways from today's testimony. Plus, a Massachusetts woman claims that she's being framed for the murder of her police officer boyfriend. We'll break down the defense's shocking allegations ahead of Monday's big hearing.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Back now to New Mexico, where the armor on the Western film Rust is back in court today, looking very different than she did back in October of 2021.
That's when a prop gun being used by actor Alec Baldwin went off and fatally shot cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Now, Gutierrez is being charged with involuntary manslaughter after the prosecutors say that she ignored several safety protocols.
All right, let's get you back into court now for more of the production manager's testimony on redirect.
Ms. Walters, do you know if one of the reasons that the camera crew left was because of accidental discharges on set?
They cited safety concerns, yes.
Did they specifically say accidental discharges on set?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Bowles asked you about the camera crew coming the following day to collect their belongings.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think you indicated that they stayed at the camera truck. Is that right?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay, and is the camera truck and the prop truck the same thing?
No.
In your experience, do people on the camera crew frequently bring their own equipment, stands, cables, stuff like that?
Sometimes, yes.
And did they on the set of Rust?
Yes, they did.
Is that your understanding of what they were taking?
Yes.
During the day, when filming was going on, was the prop truck being overseen by a driver? a member of the Teamsters that you hired?
He might not have been there all the time, but he was around, yes.
Okay. And I want to just ask you a couple of quick questions about your experience. How many films or productions, even TV is fine, have you been the unit production manager on? Prior to this?
Prior to this, 3 or 4.
And did any of those other productions have an armorer?
They did not.
This was the first production you worked on that had an armorer?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. I don't have anything further.
Your Honor, do you have any objections? Just real briefly, I asked you earlier about, you were saying that you don't remember, you couldn't see if Mr. Baldwin was paying attention during that training?
Correct.
Do you recall in your pretrial interview that you did indicate he wasn't paying attention?
I have been told he wasn't paying attention. I did not physically see it.
Okay, so, and I don't want to get into the hearsay comment.
Sure.
So, but you didn't see it yourself?
I did not.
Okay. With regard to the, with regard to the accidental discharges, were you aware that there was a discharge with special effects?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're excused.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
All right, let's bring in our guest, still with us, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernardo Villalona. Bernardo, this issue of accidental discharges, I think it raises a lot of questions. There's a lot of evidence in this case that can actually be used by both sides. And I think the defense wants to claim that there was a larger issue here that went beyond just the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez, that these accidental discharges went across units, so the special effects unit, other places. People were upset, wanted to walk off the set. And of course, the state wants to suggest that this was really within the province of Hannah Gutierrez and plays into this idea that she was reckless or guilty or should have been more diligent. How do you think it plays out to this jury?
Well, the defense is definitely going to be pointing the finger at everyone else but Hannah Gutierrez. So, of course, that's what we expect to come out. But when it comes to the prosecution is going to continue to focus on who was Hannah Gutierrez. The buck stops with her. She is the armorer. She was supposed to ensure the gun safety at that movie scene. That's it. No one else, just her. So whether you point the finger at accidental discharge, the reality is that actually helps the prosecution. You know why? Because it puts her on notice that there was accidental discharge. So you need to be on your game and be more focused as to what is going on at that scene.
And that's fair, but this is a case that involves recklessness, right? And if the defense can show that she wasn't allowed to do her job, I think that undercuts the idea that she was reckless. I think that's where the defense is going, that because of budget cuts, because of time constraints, she wasn't really allowed to do her job in the best way possible, which created a very difficult situation for her, and that's why it doesn't rise to the level of recklessness for involuntary manslaughter.
And I think it's because it's recklessness as to whom. At the end of the day, who was reckless? I would suggest whoever had live ammunition on the set, they were reckless, but we don't know necessarily who that was. Another thing that I have to ask you about, Bernardo, is this testimony that between the 21st of October and the 27th of October, which is prior to the search warrant, that the only person who had access to the prop truck was the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, and that she did go to that prop truck. Well, my initial reaction is, so what? I mean, maybe you can theorize like, oh, she must have been covering up, oh, she went and removed guns that were loaded, but we don't know any of that.
But that's it right there. If you're thinking it, Judge Ashley, guess who else is thinking it? The jury is going to be thinking it. What reason would she have had to go back to the scene during that time to go into that prop truck? There was no reason for her to go back, except if she wanted to remove something that could be incriminating, because she knows she is being investigated.
And what's interesting is the defense is making the exact supposition on others. They're saying, well, anyone could have accessed this truck over those 6 days. So to find out that it was really Hannah who did, I think is a little bit damaging.
Yep.
All right, Bernarda, stand by. We're going to take a break. Folks, coming up, we'll switch gears coming up to Georgia, where we've been following the trial for a cult leader accused of rape. Interesting case there and here in Georgia. All right, that's next here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Welcome back, not walking back, to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott, Michael Ayala. There's been a lot going on this week, and honestly covering a lot of trials that are all good, but I think by Friday I'm tongue-tied. All right, now we're going to turn to another live trial. We've been following this trial out of Georgia, the polygamist cult leader trial.
Defendant Eligio Bishop is charged with raping a woman who wanted to leave his religious group called Carbon Nation. Court TV's own Ted Rowlands has a closer look at the case.
In this video, I will be teaching you how to think. And I know a lot of people are already saying, mind control.
The alleged cult leader of Carbon Nation, Eligio Nature Boy Bishop, was arrested after a former cult member claimed he posted revenge porn after she left him.
But truly, I'm a really sweet person. They want to crucify me, they want me dead. They're going to hate around me. You can feel it. That's like any other prophet. Only me, I'm the return of Christ.
Carbon Nation is a polygamous group that believes in nudism, sexual education, veganism, and that members hand over all financial information to their leader, Eligio Bishop. He has amassed significant followings on YouTube and Instagram. A former member of his group spoke with an Atlanta news station.
He literally held me hostage. He took all of my identification, my passport, my birth certificate, my social, my bank cards, everything, you name it.
Court documents claim in March of 2022, Bishop raped one of his members after refusing to let her leave. He then posted, the allegation says, the videos onto his social media pages.
So it's like, lock up all the real men, or all the dominant males. Let's lock them all up. You know what? I still forgive her.
Bishop is charged with rape, false imprisonment, and 3 charges of prohibition on nude or sexually explicit electronic transmissions. He's pled not guilty, claiming she consented to participating in the sexual acts and has never held anyone against their will.
I want to apologize if I offended anybody in any kind of way. I said it, the truth, in the wrong way. I stand by everything that I stand by.
We want to take you now into court for the cross-examination of Courtney Townsend. He is a former member and the ex-boyfriend of the alleged victim in this case. Let's go back in.
Right? That's right. Okay. All right. Ultimately, when you're in Mexico, how long do you guys stay in Mexico before you go elsewhere?
What time? When are you talking?
When you went there in 2019?
We stayed there for about a year. Okay. And when we left, we chose to leave. Mm-hmm. The house was raided in Mexico, and we all felt very uncomfortable staying in that same place where those police raided our house.
Okay.
So we did leave, and then we just started traveling from there.
Did you come back to Atlanta at some point?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And during the time that you were back in Atlanta, is that when you met Janae Newell?
We returned to Atlanta twice. I met Janae Newell my first week in Mexico. Okay. Not in person, but online.
Okay. Did you invite her to come there?
No.
You never invited her to come there?
She had went there before me, and she was already aware about it. We didn't speak on that.
Okay. So she had been there before 2019?
Correct.
Okay. All right, but when you got there in 2019, during the year you were there, she came there during that time frame as well?
No.
She never came there in 2019?
2019, did Jeanette come? I remember mostly talking to her on the phone, and I believe she did initially come like for the first time in Atlanta.
Okay.
When I first met her in person.
And you guys were in Atlanta in 2020?
2019, 2020, yes.
Okay, and were you staying the 2 times? I think you mentioned that you were in Atlanta twice. Was it the same house?
No.
Different houses?
Yes.
Okay. So the house in 2022 and the house in 2020 were different houses?
2020 and 2022?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you were at both of those houses, though, correct?
Correct.
All right. You indicated, I just want to go over a couple of things that you talked about, that you guys would collectively agree on what to do and where to sleep, or was that something that Mr. Bishop decided unitarily?
That was only initially. After a while, people would be in their own domains based off of where we were.
Okay.
So whether they were in a relationship with their partner in their tent or they were sleeping alone.
Okay.
And I suppose if the guys wanted to do something different, sleep however we wanted, we could sleep in the studio, we could sleep in the kitchen, we could sleep wherever we wanted, really.
Okay. So you had some autonomy yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you testified earlier that if you didn't agree that you could leave, correct?
Yes.
Basically, if you don't agree with what I'm telling you to do, hit the road.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you indicated that, Mr. Bishop, it was frowned upon to allow others to communicate with your family. Is that fair to say?
It was frowned upon, yes.
Okay. Did people not communicate with their family at all?
Majority did not.
Okay. And you guys had an online presence, though, of greater than 30,000 people. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And this was live videos and streaming and all this stuff, correct?
All forms of content. We had a large technical team.
Okay. And the content would basically be just live things that you guys were doing, following y'all on a daily basis, right?
No.
What would it be?
Music.
Music?
Media. Graphic design, which can be placed into a myriad of different areas online.
Okay.
And so on.
So
acting, we would act sometimes, we would perform certain things, music on different lives and different platforms. Okay. Their platforms would pay us for being on there.
Okay. So you guys would do music? What kind of music?
I would call it conscious music.
Conscious music. Okay. All right. And that would be for the whole group?
Correct. Even for myself to this day.
Okay. And you said you guys would also do some type of graphic design?
Yes.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Photoshop. What's the other one? Final Cut. DaVinci Resolve. Different things to do editing. Okay. Or whether it be music videos, a normal post with a picture, maybe a quote from him.
Okay.
Maybe a movie picture. Who knows?
This would be something you guys would do every day?
Every single day.
Okay. And you also said you guys did acting as well?
Yes.
Is that acting something you guys would do every day?
It depends on if that was what we had dossier for the content.
Okay. And would the acting include everybody in the group?
No. It would just be whoever the creative minds were at work.
Okay. But it would be produced on behalf of the group?
Yes.
Okay.
And it would have to be checked by a lead.
Okay.
Even the music, everything.
So the music, the graphic design, and the acting were all things that Mr. Bishop helped to create or facilitated in some way, and you needed permission in order to post it initially?
Correct.
Okay. Would sometimes the acting be dramatic?
No.
What would the acting include?
Skits. Things like skits.
Mm-hmm.
Different metaphorical ways to convey a message of knowledge itself.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, so the 30,000 plus followers, but you believe it was more than that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm almost done. Based on you were present at the house in Atlanta on March 24th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you said...
You know, so far sounding pretty innocent, just talking about skits that were metaphorical messages and conscious music, nothing really yet too jarring.
Yeah, I mean, just showing that, you know, what the ethos of this group was. And I think eventually he'll begin to get into this idea that there was a lot of fear and other things used to keep people under control.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but we'll have to wait and see. When we come back, we'll go back in to bring you more from this trial. Stay tuned, Court TV Live.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, diving deeper into new details in the Baldwin movie shooting trial.
I'm the armor, or at least I was.
Court TV teams are live from New Mexico with takeaways from today's testimony. Plus, a Massachusetts woman claims that she's being framed for the murder of her police officer boyfriend. We'll break down the defense's shocking allegations ahead of Monday's big hearing.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan, tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.
We are bringing you the polygamist cult leader trial out of Georgia this afternoon.
Prosecutors say Eligio Bishop sexually assaulted a member of the group when she attempted to leave and posted explicit videos of them having sex on social media.
Let's get you back into court now for more testimony. We're now hearing from Aaron Dixon, another former member of the cult.
Find the testimony to the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir, I do.
State and spell your name for the court. Get the lawyer.
First name Aaron, A-A-R-O-N. Last name Dixon, D-I-X-O-N.
All right, and Aaron, do you know Eligio Bishop?
I do.
When did you first hear of Mr. Bishop?
First time I found out about Mr. Bishop was 2017, October.
And what was going on in your life back in October of 2017?
Around that time, I was preparing to be honorably discharged from the United States Army.
Okay. And what were your plans what were you planning on doing once you left the Army?
One of my initial plans was to enroll in college and also seek some form of employment.
Okay. And what drew you to Mr. Bishop?
Prior to finding Mr. Bishop, as most people know, YouTube recommends videos based upon your search history and watch history. And I have been involved in natural living, spirituality, and things like that. And eventually, one of his videos popped up on my feed.
Okay. And at that point, did you start watching those videos?
I did start watching the videos that was uploaded on YouTube as well as the live videos that he was currently doing.
Where was the group located at that point?
At that time, they were located in, I believe, Belize.
Okay. And what were your impressions of them?
Initially, what drew me to them was the fact that they were from the States like me. And they seemed to be peaceful. They seemed to be wanting to stray away from the typical, I would say, normal society living as far as like being in a city and things like that, and wanting to be more separate from traditional societal ways.
And so at some point, did you begin to communicate with Mr. Bishop?
I did. Prior to speaking to Mr. Bishop, I was speaking to other members who were there. I believe the first time I actually spoke to Mr. Bishop directly was on Instagram live video.
And about how long was that after you first started noticing the videos?
I'd say probably about 3 or 4 months.
Okay. Eventually, did you move and join up with Mr. Bishop?
I did. May 2018, I flew into Belize.
And at that point, had your military career ended?
Yes, my military career ended October 2017.
Okay. And when you left for Belize, where were you staying at that point?
Before leaving to Belize, I was at my grandmother's house in Butler, Georgia.
Okay. And when you got to Belize, how did you, did someone come pick you up? How did you get to meet up with the group?
So prior to getting on the plane to go to Belize, I was flying out of Atlanta. I spoke with Mr. Bishop, and he told me that they were going to pick me up from the airport in Belize. And in fact, they did come. They showed up in a very large-sized van with materials on the top, I believe camping equipment and whatnot, and we went from there.
Okay. Who all was in the group at that point?
You actually want me to give names?
Or just how many folks were there?
It was about 12 people.
Okay. And where were they sleeping or living?
When they first picked me up, we left Belize and drove to Cancun, Mexico, and it was a Airbnb.
Okay. So did you spend any time in Belize, or like once you met up, did y'all take off?
I spent probably about a few seconds in Belize. As soon as they picked me up from Belize, we immediately drove to Mexico.
Okay. All right. So when you get to Cancun, you said there's about 12 folks. Is that right?
Correct.
Are these both males and females?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was it just one Airbnb in Cancun?
Yes, sir.
And what were the sleeping arrangements like there?
The sleeping arrangements at the Airbnb specifically, right?
Yes.
There was, I would say, Mr. Bishop, and at the time he was with Miss Marquez, Miss Velvet Marquez. They had their own room, they had their own quarters. There was another room. There was 2 rooms, and then there was a living room. So some people were sleeping in the living room, some people were sleeping in the 2 rooms, but he had his own quarters with, at the time, his wife or girlfriend, however you want to refer to it.
Okay. And when you got there, sort of, what were your first impressions of the group, the whole experience?
So initially, it was normal. They asked me regular introductory questions that you would ask anybody you first met. How was your flight? You know, what was your zodiac sign? Because we was big into astrology at that time. When's your birthday? People were offering me water. People were offering me snacks, things of that nature.
And when you, so were you in the group, did you go by your legal name?
No. Your legal name was actually discarded before you even joined the group. That was kind of like a initiation phase, a form of showing that you have detached from your identity.
And what did you go by?
Throughout the whole thing, because I had multiple names.
Sure.
Okay, so my first name was Ace. My second name was Just. Then I was True. So I had about 3 names.
And how was your relationship with the defendant, Mr. Bishop?
That depends on what time in the journey we're referring to.
Well, let's start with, if we're talking about the beginning near Cancun, like when you, shortly after you got there, how did the 2 of y'all get along?
I remember an incident when we was at the mall in Mexico, and he took a group photo with the guys, but I wasn't present for the photo. I was actually talking to my now wife at the time. He was very upset. He made a statement that I was what the group refers to as out of tune, meaning that I was not being connected to the other members and I was kind of going astray on my own. He was upset.
Okay. And that happened in Cancun?
Yes.
Okay. And just so we can get it cleared up, the person that you're referring to that later became your wife, what is her name?
Kendra Carter.
Okay. And were there rules in the group?
There were a multitude of rules. Mr. Bishop, for any reason at any time, would implement and or remove rules. But the 3 rules I want to highlight pertain to food, sleep, and relationships.
Okay, what was the rule pertaining to food?
Food was one meal a day. The consumption outside of that 1 meal involved very small things like nuts or fruit. And in addition to that, you couldn't eat until Mr. Bishop was served first. So that was one of the standard things. He had to get his food first, he had to get his plate first, and even if he decided not to eat, then nobody was eating.
And what about, I think you said sleeping arrangements?
Well, as far as sleep is concerned, so if Mr. Bishop was talking, you could.
All right, let's bring back in our guest still with us, Bernarda Villalona. And Bernarda, you know, these witnesses, they didn't witness or weren't eyewitnesses to what is at the center of this case, but what they're doing is they're setting the scene for what it was like in this cult or in this group, because what the facts are is that this victim didn't initially report a rape. So we need to understand why that might be the case.
Exactly. So as you can see what this witness, Mr. Dixon, who's actually coming off very credible, he's setting the scene for us to show how much power this defendant had over them. Like, he can reflect now and say, oh, these things weren't normal. This is not okay. But at the time, for him, it was normal. And here we have him explaining that to everyone else. So this is really important for the prosecution, because you want to explain to the jury why they didn't report the rape, these alleged rapes, when it actually happened.
I think also the importance of bringing out the different rules around food, supplies, relationships, sleep, I mean. So that helps paint the picture of what it was like to really exist in this environment.
The emotional abuse, too. It's like, oh, you're not in the picture, so you're out of tune with the group. That's all part of the emotional abuse and the control.
Yeah, control. It's all about control. All right, thank you to Bernardo Villalona for joining us today.
All right, folks, coming up next, we're going to have more testimony from the polygamist cult leader trial, plus all the highlights from today's testimony in the Baldwin movie shooting trial. Remember, this is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. We have a lot to get into. In the next couple of hours here on Court TV, the defense rested their case today in the missing mom conspiracy trial. Michelle Troconis is on trial after her boyfriend's wife vanished. Plus, new information on the tragic killing of a woman on the University of Georgia campus. Police say they're questioning a person of interest. But we begin in New Mexico, where we are watching the case against Hannah Gutierrez.
And is that a text to or from Ms. Gutierrez's phone?
It is from her phone.
And it is to the 505 number?
Correct.
And if you can, and what's the date?
The date is October 20th, 2021 at 7:48 and 46 seconds p.m. local time.
Okay. And can you read that for us?
It says, headed down to get high out back.
Hannah Gutierrez was the armorer in charge of weapon safety on the set of the Rust movie starring A-list actor Alec Baldwin. Gutierrez was in court for the second day of her trial, where she is facing involuntary manslaughter charges after a prop gun held by Baldwin fired during rehearsal, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins and injuring director Joe Souza. Up first on the stand this morning, crime scene technician Marissa Popple, continuing her testimony from yesterday. After walking through some of the evidence collected from the scene during her direct examination, she was then challenged by the defense on cross, admitting that she didn't have specific training on differentiating between dummy rounds, blank rounds, and live rounds.
What is the scope of your training you've had on determining different types of ammunition?
I mean, are you specifically referring to?
Calibers, 4440, 38, 45, you've been trained on recognizing the differences?
That I have, yes.
Okay, and how about recognizing the differences between dummy rounds, blanks, and live rounds?
I have not been to that type of training, no.
Okay. So your testimony earlier when you were talking about the dummy rounds and the various measurements and that, you have not been trained in that area?
No.
Okay. Now, part of your training in terms of verifying that a round is either a dummy or a live round is you need to send that to the FBI lab for confirmation. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Because some of the dummy rounds appear like live rounds. They look like live rounds, correct?
Yes.
In fact, the round that came out of the box we saw earlier that did not shake, you sent that off to the FBI lab because you wanted to confirm what that was, correct?
Yes.
And part of the thing the FBI does is they take apart the round and they determine if it has powder in it. Is that right?
Yes.
And when they do that, that tells them basically if it's a live round or a dummy. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So would you also agree in your training that you've never been taught that you can eyeball a dummy and determine if it's a dummy or a live, or eyeball a round and determine if it's a dummy or live?
No, I've not been trained in that area.
Okay. And you would also agree with me that you can't look at a picture of a round and determine necessarily if it's a dummy or a live?
I would disagree with that.
And why would you disagree?
The rounds that have holes drilled into the side of them or the primers removed appear to visibly be dummy rounds.
And those do. Now, how about the rounds that don't shake, don't have a hole in them, and you're looking at that? You can't tell just by looking at it that's live or dummy, correct?
Correct.
And that's why you sent that one off to the lab again, right?
Yes.
When you were at PDQ doing the search, is there a specific reason that you were only looking for .45 caliber rounds?
My understanding was that was the restriction of the search warrant.
Based on your understanding of the investigation, why are .45 caliber rounds significant and others not significant?
Because all of the live rounds that were located on set were .45 rounds.
Now, Popple also admitted that she didn't know where any of the rounds in the box originated from. Important information for the defense there. Joining us to discuss, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Franz Borghardt for Fridays with Franz. Franz, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me on the program. This whole issue of these rounds, whether you could tell the difference between dummy rounds, blank rounds, because there are 3 different kinds. I didn't even realize that. Why is that important, and who does it help more?
Well, it depends on which way the wind blows with the jury, Michael. And by that I mean, in some respects, the question still remains, what was a live round doing there, right? In the other respects, if you can't tell the difference and you're an expert with the state and you have to have specialized training, how would anybody else not recognize it? I think it helps the defense, but again, the lingering question that they're going to have to address at some point is, where did this live round come from?
I agree with you. When they offered plea deals to Hannah Gutierrez, any plea she took had to include that she would admit to bringing the live rounds on set. So clearly the state thinks that's very important. If they're unable to show directly that she was responsible for bringing those on the set, how detrimental is that to their case?
Well, it goes back to what is the scope of her role as armor master, right? Is it to ensure that this doesn't happen, and that she has to check, even in the face of unlikely foreseeability, she still needs to check. Well, if that's the case, it doesn't matter. She should have checked, right? But if a reasonable person says she could be the best armor master in the world and nobody can tell the difference, and she didn't bring that round there, well, then I could see someone saying, you know what, I don't want to impute guilt as to gross negligence as to this defendant, which ultimately also helps Alec Baldwin.
And you know what's interesting? What the defense is arguing is that there was no real system for whether something was a live round, a blank, or a dummy round, and that there was, as you heard there, the testimony, there was some that had holes in them, some didn't, some had BBs in them, some didn't. It was difficult to sort of differentiate, and that really, and I think this is what the defense is going to argue, is that wasn't really the province of Hannah Gutierrez. That system belonged to somebody above her, the producers of the show. If they can show that, if they can show that there was some other larger issue at work here, I think that undercuts the idea that she was reckless enough to warrant a conviction of involuntary manslaughter.
It's a not so subtle finger pointing, right? It's right. Somebody else is responsible. And in fact, if I'm not producer, and so perhaps he would be responsible, which doesn't help him, obviously. But again, it's can you get past the fact that it's outside of her providence, or does a normal, reasonable juror say, no, she is the gun expert. She is the one who's supposed to catch this. If anybody else is going to catch it, it has to be her, and that's the whole reason we have her on the set. It's tricky, right? It's tricky because I can see both arguments, and candidly, this is the issue with prosecuting these kind of crimes. It's not specific intent, it's gross negligent. And someone might say, well, this was negligent, but was it gross negligent if it was foreseeable that somebody would miss it, even her as the expert?
So let me ask you this. We had many conversations in the lead up to this trial as to whether this even belonged in criminal court. Hearing opening statements, and again, I want to reiterate the fact that opening statements are not evidence, but just they're talking about what they want to prove or what they're going to prove. Based on what you heard, are we in the right place? Is this a case that should be in front of a jury in a criminal court?
I know this is an unpopular view. I don't think it should be in the criminal court. I think this is a problematic case for the state. I admire that they're pursuing what they believe to be justice, Michael. But this really, in my heart of hearts, feels like it's more appropriately in a civil arena where you sue her, you sue the production, you sue everybody, and you say, you know what, gross negligence is really a civil issue. That said, we are in trial right now. We've picked a jury, and ultimately a jury of this young lady's peers is going to make the decision.
Yeah, it's interesting because I wonder how the other folks who worked on the set feel. We saw a couple of them testify today, and there were a lot of issues on the set, a lot of misfires and different things. They were threatening to walk off the set. I wonder if they feel like this is the right place for this, so they feel maybe the higher-ups are more responsible. I would love to know their thoughts on that. All right, stand by. We do have some breaking news for you. New developments in a major story that we brought you last week. In Georgia, we watched a hearing to consider a motion to disqualify District Attorney Fani Willis from her former President Donald Trump election interference case. Well, that motion was filed over an alleged improper relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. Both parties testified that their relationship began after Wade was assigned to the Trump trial. Well, now an affidavit by a criminal defense investigator has revealed Wade's cell phone was ringing near Willis's home before they said the relationship began. The affidavit says in part, this conservative analysis using the above referenced modality revealed a minimum of 35 occasions when Mr. Wade's phone connected for an extended period of time to either one of those towers in closest proximity to the Dogwood address based upon associated data use. Additionally, the document says the data reveals that he is stationary and not in transit. So the house they said he was never at, this, according to this expert, his phone says he was there and stationary for long periods of time. A lot more to go in that case for sure. We'll keep you updated. All right, folks, coming up next, we're going to continue our coverage of the Baldwin movie shooting trial. Next on the stand is a cell phone expert who reveals Hannah Gutierrez was under the influence on set the day before the shooting. That's next here on Court TV. Plus, coming up in our 6 o'clock hour, we want to hear from you in our Talkback segment. Who do you think holds the most responsibility for the death of Halyna Hutchins? Go now to our social media, let us know your thoughts, and we're going to share some of those comments later on in the show. Keep it here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, diving deeper into new details in the Baldwin movie shooting trial.
I'm the armor, or at least I was.
Court TV teams are live from New Mexico with takeaways from today's testimony. Plus, a Massachusetts woman claims that she's being framed for the murder of her police officer boyfriend. We'll break down the defense's shocking allegations ahead of Monday's big hearing.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
I'm Kelly Craft in Santa Fe, New Mexico, covering the Baldwin movie shooting trial. You're watching Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Continuing now with our coverage of the Baldwin movie shooting trial, where armorer Hannah Gutierrez is facing involuntary manslaughter charges for her alleged involvement in the death of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins on the movie set of Rust. Well, the movie starred Alec Baldwin, who was holding the prop gun that fired a live round, killing Hutchins and injuring director Joel Souza. Baldwin was also a producer on the film. Prosecutors point the blame at Gutierrez, saying she failed at her responsibility of safely checking and handling the weapons on the set. And today, the court heard from a cell phone expert who analyzed Gutierrez's messages after the shooting, revealing that she might have been high on the set just one day before the fatal shooting happened. Take a listen.
We're seeing this text message here that's on the screen. Is this a text message from that phone or to that phone?
It is a text message from the 928 number to the 505 number.
Okay, and can you read it for us?
The content?
Yes.
Yes, it's LOL. I don't need that tonight anyways. Right on. I might go smoke in the jacuzzi soon, but maybe not. I'm so pooped.
Okay, and I'm going to show you this. And is that a text to or from Ms. Gutierrez's phone?
It is from her phone.
And it is to the 505 number?
Correct.
And if you can, and what's the date?
The date is October 20th, 2021 at 7:48 and 46 seconds p.m. local time.
Okay. And can you read that for us?
It says, headed down to get high out back, :B.
Just for context, what does that message say?
That message says, time to eat now, how the blaze says go.
And then is there and what time was that message sent?
So that message was received by the phone at 8:24 and 46 seconds p.m. in red at 8:25 and 47 seconds.
Okay. And so this is the time that it was received?
Correct.
And this is the time it was read?
Correct.
And then is there a response to that text that we're looking at here in green?
There is.
And what time is that sent?
That is sent at 8:25 and 53 seconds.
And this is from Ms. Gutierrez's phone to the 505 number?
Yes.
And what does that text message say?
It says, I'm still smoking.
Okay, thank you.
All right, remember, Alec Baldwin is also charged with involuntary manslaughter. His trial actually is set to begin this summer, I believe August. All right, still joining us to discuss is criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. All right, Franz, I think right there is where the rubber hits the road for the prosecution. We're talking about drug use. Now, I don't know how late they were on the set. It sounds like they might have been done with filming. This was after she decides to get high. That's how she describes it. That means different things to different people. What do you make of that evidence being presented to this jury?
I think that that's a nail in the coffin. I think that most jurors would be able to give a little bit of wiggle room for a missed live round that is hard to distinguish, but I don't know how you get around, hey, you have this responsibility, this really, really critical responsibility to ensure safety, and putting aside your feelings about smoking illicit narcotics, you are doing something inherently unsafe by getting high and then doing this job that is so crucial to the safety of everybody on set. I think that's a nail in the coffin, Michael.
So you feel that way even though, let's assume that she's talking about off hours. This is not on the set. This is, let's say, the night after a day of shooting. They, of course, have to be back in the morning. You feel that same way even if this is offset, this is after hours?
The issue is going to be that the defense is going to have to put on a witness that can testify to the fact that that just because she smoked the night before doesn't mean that she's impaired the day of. But then look at what you're defending at that point. When is she high, when she's not high? When is she breaking the law, not breaking the law? It's a weird defensive posture. Yes, it would be different if she was just drunk the night before and had a hangover the next day. Would that have obstructed her ability to do her job during the day? Well, not necessarily. The problem is the defense then becomes on the defense then has a burden shift of having to explain what you just articulated. And I think the only way they can do that is through expert testimony.
Or putting her on the stand. Does she need to take the stand and explain, this is what I was doing? This is what I mean by getting high. I don't really mean I'm getting high. It's just, I'm speaking in hyperbole, talking to a friend, and really, those types of things, that's something that I think they may find themselves in a position to have to do.
She'll have to say that her smoking of marijuana or whatever she was smoking in no way impeded. She wasn't high the day that she was doing the check on this incident, and that she, of course, would never put anyone's life in danger by being high while on set. I think she's going to have to say that, Michael. And again, I just don't know what kind of witness she's going to make, because she has to get on the stand and say, during the filming of this movie, she was still smoking marijuana with this important gig.
Yeah, and then you take that and you add it on to it. Let's put this up. These are all the things that the prosecutors in their opening statement said that they have or intend to prove against this young woman to prove her recklessness. She allowed live ammunition on the set. We know that. Repeatedly failed to perform gun safety checks. She was not on set for gun rehearsals. And again, these are rules that armorers have to follow according to the rules of safety on set. She did not ensure that Baldwin received the proper training. She did not unload the gun in front of Baldwin before each use. She accepted the job with no certification or training. This was only her second job. And it's interesting because there's quite a few different pieces of evidence in this case that I think can go either way. Both sides can use. That's one of them. She accepted the job without having certification or training. She is related to someone who is very experienced in this area. But again, this was only her second set being an armorer. Who's to blame for that? The fact that she took the job, which I think young people will do, trying to get ahead in the movie industry. You can understand that as a juror. Or the producers who seem to be wanting to cut costs, hiring someone who was inexperienced.
You just asked the question that describes the double-edged sword of this case. She will argue, her defense will argue, that's production's fault. She believed that she was capable of doing it. Obviously, they thought she was capable of doing it. And if she never should have had the gig in the first place, that's not her fault. That's someone else's fault when we're doing the analysis of gross negligence. On the other hand, if she never should have been doing the job in the first place, that of course explains why she failed to do the job that she clearly failed to do, which is preventing someone from getting shot. It's a double-edged sword. And what a juror does with that and what a group of jurors does with that is all going to come down to how do you view the responsibility of production versus the expert whose job is to do that one task.
Yeah, I can see a scale in that deliberating room. You have production on one side, you have her on the other, and start putting all these things. Which basket do we think it belongs in? Production or her? And I think ultimately who sort of weighs the more, that might be where they go. I can certainly see that happening in their deliberations. All right, stand by, Franz. Folks, we are learning new details in the case against the Michigan man accused of killing 2 people at the University of Colorado Springs campus. Nicholas Jordan was denied a reduction of his bond this morning just before his arrest affidavit was released. Nicholas Jordan is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the fatal shooting of his former roommate, 24-year-old Samuel Knopp, and 26-year-old Celie Rain Montgomery in an on-campus dorm room on February 16th. Prosecutors today said Jordan previously threatened to kill his roommate. According to the affidavit, Knopp had repeatedly reported Jordan for smoking marijuana in the room, and Jordan threatened to kill him after Knopp left a bag of trash by Jordan's door, asking him to throw it out. The defense also asked for a reduction in Jordan's $5 million cash bond. Well, Judge Shakes ultimately denied the request and set a status conference for March 15th and a preliminary hearing for March 27th. All right. Now, the man accused of helping his mother abuse his special needs brother is facing sentencing today. Paul Ferguson pleaded guilty in the horrific case. His little brother died after being starved to death.
June 13th at 2:49 p.m. Timothy tried to sneak food. I yelled at him, and then he became momentarily unresponsive, and then I saw this, and that text has a photo attached.
And then what's the text associated with the photo of the next text?
The next text, he's bone thin, Mama. I honestly think we need to actually feed him.
All right, that's coming up on Monday. Then in our next hour, the defense has rested their case against Michelle Troconis in Connecticut. She's charged in the death of her former boyfriend's wife. You don't want to miss that update coming up at 6 p.m. Keep it here on Court TV.
Do you recall while Timothy was in the tub at exchange where your mother inquired about pouring hot sauce on his private parts?
I do, yes.
Did you do that?
No. That was beyond rules, as everything else was.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. We are days away from the sentencing of Paul Ferguson. Now remember, he's the son of Shanda Vander Ark, the Michigan mom who was sentenced to life in prison for the starvation death of her son, Timothy. Now, Ferguson pleaded guilty to child abuse charges just days after his mother was convicted of murder. Ferguson testified against his mother during her trial. While on the stand, he told the jury he sent a photo of his emaciated brother to his mother the day before he died, raising concerns over his well-being.
I need you to look at a text message that you sent to your mother. It's got a photo that you took of your brother. You remember sending that text message?
Yes, sir.
For the record, this is People's 36A. This has been previously shown to the jury. Who took that photo of your brother?
Me.
And you sent it to your mother?
Yes, sir.
Why did you send it to your mother?
Because I was concerned with how thin he was.
And that photo was taken on, do you remember what the date was?
Not the exact, no.
If your phone indicated it was June 13th, you'd have no reason to dispute that.
No, sir.
And you just became, again, the reason you sent it to your mother was why?
Because I was concerned about how thin he was.
Do you remember what your mother told you to give him after you sent her that photograph?
Bread.
And then is there a reference to bread and some peanut butter?
Yes.
So at that point, your brother's very skinny, right? Was he eating regular meals at that point?
No.
Were you still administering the hot sauce on the bread as a form of punishment for him during that time period?
Yes.
And did that continue all the way up until the time of his death?
Yes.
Did he ever eat any normal type of meal leading up to his death after you took that photo and sent it to your mother?
That day I made him an actual real meal, an actual peanut butter and jelly sandwich, as well as scrambled some eggs and put cheese in them.
Did you tell your mother you made that meal for him?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because I didn't want her to be upset with me.
Timothy, who was only 15 when he died in 2022, was only 69 pounds at the time of his death and was routinely handcuffed and forced to sleep in a closet. Now, when she took the stand, Van der Ark pointed the finger at her son, claiming Paul was the one who was the mastermind behind the abuse. Now, Ferguson will be sentenced on Monday morning. All right, joining us to discuss, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. You know, Franz, it was interesting. I mean, first off, the mother pointing the finger at the son was just nuts. But, you know, I was a little torn as to the involvement of the son. You know, I likened it to other cases. I mean, you know, I'll even say something similar to like Kayla Montgomery, where someone's abused and then they do things that don't make any sense because of that abuse. I kind of put Paul in that category as a young man being raised by someone who clearly had mental health issues. He was clearly abused. And then he turned that abuse on his brother. But he was also at a certain age. So I don't know, where do you think this falls in terms of sentencing and how he should be treated by a court?
I think he gets the benefit of accepting responsibility. I think he gets the benefit of being a victim of his own mother and the environment, like you suggested. However, I think one of the most basic tenets of most judges and human beings is, am I my brother's keeper? And the answer is yes. Taking photos or sending photos, but not doing something enough to save this young child. I think a judge is going to have problems and issues with that. And I think one of the concerns is okay, if you go soft on him as someone who contributed to the abuse, who else are you putting in harm's way in the future? And that is a consideration of the court at sentencing. So I think at the end of the day, he is going to get significant time. I think there's some mitigators here that would suggest that maybe he fits into the mold of a victim himself.
Yeah, and I think what's important here, too, is I think he needs to make a statement at his sentencing. Oftentimes we'll see these, you know, I mean, he pled guilty, so he might have given up his right for an appeal, and sometimes they won't speak because of a possible appeal, so that's out there. But I think if he gets into court and he says the right things, that's something that I think a judge might take into account, because I think you're right. The idea that, you know, he did seem to, in a lot of these texts, be relishing what he was doing. Again, we might be able to understand and explain it, but that sentiment was still there. He needs to explain that he's moving forward, he understands that that was problematic, and he wants to change.
I think you're absolutely right. The colloquy, the conversation between him and the court, him and the community, is pivotal, right? If he does not If he points the finger at mother too much, it's a failure to take responsibility. However, if he gets up and says, you know what, I should have done more. I should have done more. He deserved more from me as his brother. I realize that. I recognize it. Well, then there is a certain sense of, okay, well, maybe, just maybe, we don't need to put him away for as long because he understands and got the message. It's all in the colloquy, right? You're absolutely correct. It's all what he says before that court. And look, judges sometimes make up their minds before sentencing, but sometimes judges will change their minds based on what the defendant himself says.
Franz, I got to say this, because even no matter what he says, he needs help. I mean, he needs to be deprogrammed. And I wonder if the system, being in prison, is the right place where he's going to get that help. I mean, you put him in prison clearly because there's an issue here, and we'll talk about sentence in just a moment. But he needs mental health help. He needs to be deprogrammed from the way he's been taught, treated, and to break away from those thoughts and feelings. I don't think that's something that can be put upon him to do for himself. So what are the chances that that might happen for this young man?
So the judge has all the power, Michael. The judge can give him a period of incarceration and then a period of time where he's not incarcerated to monitor him, to help him get the help he needs. And if he fails to get that help, well, he goes back to prison, right? In the business, we call that a split sentence sometimes. But the judge has the ability, the judge has the judicial authority and power to say, you know what? I'm going to cut the baby in half, so to speak. I'm going to give him some time, but I'm also going to set him in the for success by giving him a period of time on the back end of that time to where he has to get treatment. He has to get help. We can keep an eye on him to ensure this never happens to any other individual in his grasp ever again.
All right, lots of conditions, and I agree with you 100%. So quickly, I believe he's facing anywhere from no minimum to life in prison for child abuse. I like the discretion. Child abuse is one of those types of charges that really run the gamut, give some discretion to the court. Where do you think the court might land or should land in this case?
So he's young enough to where he can have an out date. And by that, I mean, the judge can give a 10-year sentence and he's going to walk out of jail at some point. I think 5 to 10 years as to this defendant feels right. However, that community having to deal with everything that happened, the judge may go even higher.
Yeah, I think 5 to 10 sounds about right, going up to that 10, closer to that 10. All right, Franz, stand by. We're going to take a break. Folks, coming up next, an alleged polygamist cult leader is on trial, facing charges of rape, false imprisonment, and sending sexually explicit electronic transmissions without consent. On the other side of the break, we'll bring you the latest from day 2 of his trial right here in Georgia. Keep it here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. We're in day 2 of a brand new trial here on Court TV. A Georgia man is accused of heading up a polygamist cult. Eligio Bishop faces charges of rape, false imprisonment, and sending sexually explicit electronic transmissions without consent. Court TV anchor Ted Rowlands gets us caught up on the case.
In this video, I will be teaching you how to think. And I know a lot of people are already saying, mind control.
The alleged cult leader of Carbon Nation, Eligio Nature Boy Bishop, was arrested after a former cult member claimed he posted revenge porn after she left him.
But truly, I'm a really sweet person. They want to crucify me, they want me dead. There's the hate around me. You can feel it. That's like any other prophet. Only me, I'm the return of Christ.
Carbon Nation is a polygamous group that believes in nudism, sexual education, veganism, and that members hand over all financial information to their leader, Eligio Bishop. He has amassed significant followings on YouTube and Instagram. A former member of his group spoke with an Atlanta news station.
He literally held me hostage. He took all of my identification, my passport, my birth certificate, my social, my bank cards, everything, you name it.
Court documents claim in March of 2022, Bishop raped one of his members after refusing to let her leave. He then posted, the allegation says, the videos onto his social media pages.
So it's like, lock up all the real men, or all the dominant males. Let's lock them all up. know what? I still forgive her.
Bishop is charged with rape, false imprisonment, and 3 charges of prohibition on nude or sexually explicit electronic transmissions. He's pled not guilty, claiming she consented to participating in the sexual acts and has never held anyone against their will.
I want to apologize if I offended anybody in any kind of way. I said it, the truth, in the wrong way. I stand by everything that I stand by.
Well, today the jury heard from a cult expert, but before he could testify, he was questioned by both sides.
Can you tell us what a destructive authoritarian group is?
I would define a destructive authoritarian group by 3 core elements, which form the nucleus for the definition of such a group. And that would be, number 1, that there is an absolute authoritarian leader who has no meaningful accountability, that is the defining element and driving force of the group. Frequently, that leader becomes an object of worship. Second, that leader uses identifiable techniques of coercive persuasion and thought reform to gain undue influence over his or her followers.
Have you already formed an opinion regarding Mr. Bishop? You indicated you've been following him, quote, over the years and you've watched his videos. So I'm assuming that you formed an opinion about him. Is that correct?
Mr. Bishop certainly is a controversial figure. He has been for some time. There have been repeated allegations regarding his methods of coercive persuasion, of people who claim to have been harmed by him. And so I'm aware of that, and I'm aware that history has resonance with my work and with what I'm concerned about.
That's not what I asked you. I said, have you formed an opinion about him?
In my opinion, Eligio Bishop fits the profile of a destructive authoritarian leader, and that there are patterns of coercive persuasion to gain undue influence that have been reported and stated by people that have been under his influence and families that have been affected by him.
Now, the judge ultimately allowed that testimony in front of the jury. And a cult follower also took the stand. Courtney Townsend testified about the rules while living with the cult.
Were there rules related to romantic relationships?
Yes, and that was the most fickle rule.
How so?
It only applied when either he was quote-unquote single or the woman he wanted wouldn't be with him, or when he felt like he needed to do a media stunt was another reason he would say he wanted all the women. And things like that. It was really always very superficial why he chose to intervene.
And were folks within the group able to say no to Mr. Bishop?
The option is to leave or agree.
What would happen if someone upset or angered Mr. Bishop?
I would say that emotional abuse would begin. This is where people would be isolated, put in a corner, or for those who are familiar with college, like a hazing type of thing, we would treat people a certain way if they are not in agreement with him. Or one of the things that would happen is we would call them a cancer cell, and we would treat them like they're a cancer cell, like in the body, and they have to kill the cancer cells. But we're not going to kill them, we're just going to surround them. And this was the concept.
Okay. What did members of the group call Mr. Bishop? Like, how was he referred to?
It changed from my experience, Commander-in-Chief, and then it went to Chief. It went to, let me see. There was Nature Boy. I never really knew him. I never got to meet him when he went by Nature Boy. There was 3 God, which is the most fraudulent one. Let me see. I think the list goes on. He used to change his name really often to similar things. So, just small alterations.
How did he refer to the world outside of the group?
For those familiar with the Bible or history, Babylon is what you would call it.
And would he allow folks within the group to maintain communication with their friends and family outside of the group?
Yes, however, it was frowned upon.
Okay, how so?
It was as if you didn't really let go of your Babylon self or your Babylon family as it was regarded as. So if you did reach out and it wasn't to convince them to support us for money, there's no reason to be talking to them.
When people left the group, how did Mr. Bishop respond?
He didn't care. I mean, initially, when they try to leave, it's hell on wheels. Once they finally get to leave, he does not care.
Can you describe whether there was like an us against them ethos within the group?
Yes, there was a us against them ethos where anywhere segregation took place. So whether it was men or women, that would be a type of war. A team and B team. It would be these guys do the dirty work, we do all the technical stuff, and we get more rewards than them. That always played a part, at least I've seen it in how they felt, how the guys would feel. And any time anyone would disagree with him, many times I had to sit up for hours fighting for what was true while everyone was, quote unquote, being a yes man, just so they can go to sleep or just so they can eat.
Now remember, Elizio Bishop is facing life in prison for that rape. Joining us to discuss still, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. And Franz, you know, it comes down to the issue of consent. The defense in their opening statement basically said that this was a consensual act. They pointed to a couple of things. When the victim went to complain about the revenge videos being posted, never talked about rape, never told the police about it, eventually changed her mind. But this is 2024. I don't think that's the issue it was 10, 15 years ago, especially when you hear the testimony. I think the prosecution is doing a great job of setting the scene of what it was like and the fear and violence and coercion that was going on within this group, this cult.
So the problem I have is the state's own witness, the surviving cult member that just testified, said you either agree or you leave. And I think a jury is going to think, well, why didn't she just leave? Even in the face of expert testimony that would suggest it's not as easy as just, quote unquote, leaving, right? This coercive power dynamic is something that many of us don't understand. It's hard to understand how a cult leader assumes this much power without it being consensual, but we know differently, right? So I think the prosecution's doing a good job. The issue is going to be that concept of, well, why didn't she just leave? And if she can leave, then why? I mean, again, that doesn't vitiate consent, Michael. That doesn't mean he gets a pass to rape somebody, but it just goes into the calculus of, did he rape her? Or did she choose to remain in this horrible situation? And if she chose to remain in the horrible situation, did she also choose to consent? That is a problematic question, and I don't envy the position of the jurors on this one.
Well, aren't jurors more predisposed today to understand that the creating of a certain environment, this coercive environment, takes away the choice of an individual? Because she's going to testify, at least according to the affidavit, that she said no, 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 no. He kept, forcing himself on her. Finally, she said, the only way I thought I'd get out of there is if I agreed. As a prerequisite to leaving, you had to have sex with him. This was his claim. Again, we heard the rules kept changing. I think, aren't juries more predisposed to believe that type of thing today?
If they can get past the fundamental question of, if I were in her situation, would I have remained? And if the answer is yes, I would have remained, then yes, they're predisposed. But if they can't get past that, if they cannot put themselves in the shoes of that alleged victim, then no, that predisposition flies out with the bathwater. And that is what's tricky about this case, is the introspective way of saying, Would I have done something differently? Would I ever allow myself to be in this boat to where I was a victim of a cult leader? And that, I believe, is what makes this a very problematic case. I'm not saying they're not going to convict him. I think they are going to convict him. It's just not a slam dunk.
Yeah, that could be where the problem could be. And they also heard a video of him today saying that women belong to men and men can take what they want because that is what women want. To that effect, it was much more, prurient than that. But essentially, they heard that from him. So that could help as well. All right, Franz Borchardt, thank you so much for being with me on this Friday. You have a fantastic weekend. Folks, please stick around. There's much more ahead in our next hour. We're going to check in with Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, who is in New Mexico, with the latest on the Baldwin movie shooting trial. Also in Connecticut, the defense rested in the trial for Michelle Troconis. Troconis is on trial, accused of helping her former boyfriend cover up the killing of his estranged wife. All right, all that and more coming up next here on Court TV.